Hello, NBA world. Welcome back to another episode of our weekly NBA podcast called Spittin Hoops. I'm here with my co-host, Anthony, resident Celtics fan and game one attendee. He's still suffering PTSD from the game, so pray for my boy. Hope he's doing okay.
Bro, after game two, I'm feeling good, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do have a bunch of playoff series to discuss. Before our last podcast, obviously, the Grizzlies series hadn't finished between the Grizzlies and the Lakers, and the Warriors series hadn't finished between the Kings and the Warriors. So we're going to break down probably game 6 and game 7 of that Warriors series when we discuss the Lakers and the Warriors series later on. But first, yesterday, big news came out. The Milwaukee Bucks fired their head coach. And Mike Budenholzer, while he was the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, basically averaged a 70% win percentage. If you remember, he was the former coach of the Hawks and eventually, moved on. And here he is. And he was quite successful during his time. But they were first rounded twice this year and last year after winning a chip in 2021. Anthony, do you have any first thoughts on this? To me, I think the most interesting part is it adds to a really deep coaching pool. But I didn't think I was not shocked.
I wasn't shocked. It makes me wonder if the Bucks are getting ready to revamp their whole franchise. That's really the biggest reason why I'm thinking about this. Like, I can see them starting to move away from some of their older guys. Like you had mentioned, if the Bucks weren't going to get it done this year, then what's going to happen going forward? Because these guys are getting older. I think Jrue Holiday is like one of the guys you do want to keep on your team. But if you're going to want to build around Javon Carter, this is the time to try to trade Giannis at his peak.
I was like, where are you going with this?
But for real, we saw how Two terrible quarters does not deserve for a coach to get fired after he wins you a chip. Just to for some context. No, they didn't lose in back-to-back first-round series. They did lose to the Celtics in 7 in the second round. And Giannis play amazingly, but they didn't have Chris Middleton. So it's like you can forgive. I feel like we can forgive Bud for that. Obviously, the way he played, he wasn't able to make adjustments. It later came out that his brother had tragically passed away during the middle of the series. So that's kind of one of those difficult conversations of like, should you leave it at this time? Like, should you take a step away or should you be able to focus? So I think that's another difficult thing. My takeaway from this is I think the Bucks are just starting to move in a different direction for their team. And so I think this just is the first domino to fall in this process. It is interesting that so many coaches have been fired so recently after winning chips with their teams. I think that just is a nature of like how quickly the NBA works, and a team can go from like an amazing record to pretty bad pretty quick, and these guys want results.
I agree with your point. The brother thing, it's good that you brought it up. That is definitely obviously a storyline and something to acknowledge. Personally, I actually don't think Coach Bud was the most amazing coach when it came to playoff time. This is something we saw in Atlanta. This is something we saw in Milwaukee their first few years, is that they would not adjust. And Coach Bud, even spanning back from his time with other teams, he's been known to be very rigid. Like, I was reading this article from 2019 talking about Coach Bud and when he first got to Milwaukee and how he would meet with his assistants and decide his 10-man rotation and exactly who would play, maybe not the minutes, but exactly who would play before the game, even playoff games. And in my opinion, I can understand the rationale for wanting, okay, you have your guys and whatnot, but to be that rigid and to be so rigid where the one game you don't do that, it was in the 2019 playoffs, he didn't do it. And the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel wrote this big article, oh my God, Coach Bud made an adjustment. And personally, I think that's a big microcosm of kind of his time as a coach, is that he's really good in the regular season. He's really good at establishing a base of a team, but he can't hide Brook Lopez's defensive issues come playoff time. That's something Steve Kerr, for example, I know Warriors fan, sorry, but Steve Kerr, as much as I have huge problems with him, he's always adjusting small things. And I know he started JaMychal Green last night, but just messing around, like sometimes GP2 won't play and sometimes GP2 will play 20 minutes. But like with the Bucks, you knew Brook Lopez was playing 31 minutes every game. And
Personally.
and really that's problematic, especially for a guy who can't switch. That's one example.
Right.
But I'm not overly surprised. So interestingly enough, on my old podcast thing I was doing, Run the Couch, the only video I ever really released that was full fledged was just an opinion video of like, it was right after Giannis had won the chip. And it was, I don't know if Giannis will win a chip ever again. And I outlined the issues with like Coach Bud, with the roster construction in terms of age. And now we're kind of getting to that point. I mean, I think Drew will be back, but I believe Middleton and Lopez are free agents. They're old too. I don't
Are they
know.
always?
I think Brooke Lopez is a free agent, but they have bird years. Same thing with Middleton. I think they're both full-fledged free agents. I think Middleton might have a player option, but he's gonna turn it down. Um,
Uh-huh.
so
Yep.
we'll
Yep.
um
Unrestricted free agent.
exactly. And they're also getting up there. Even if you re-sign these guys, there's no guarantee that Middleton is gonna be healthy. There's no guarantee Brooke Lopez is gonna be as good next year as he was this year. And as good as Brooke
Right.
Lopez and it was, you weren't even that good as a team. You lost in 5 to the Heat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm with you.
yeah.
They need more shooting and they need more creativity in their offense. And they just weren't getting that. And especially when your best player is Giannis, you need a creative offense. Like you need to be able to figure out ways that you can score the basket because score the ball because it's just not going to work. We saw how stifled they were offensively at the end of these games. And they just were not. And then not only that, like you were saying, when the Heat started to make these offensive adjustments, Bud was just like, all right, cool. Well, we're just going to run what we've been running and it's worked. So we're not going to stop doing it. And it doesn't matter. Like you were saying, that 2019 season, Bucks are up 2-0 in the Raptors. It goes to double OT. You have a chance to go up 3-0 and essentially slam the series shut. And he wouldn't make those adjustments. And it's what happens when the momentum starts going and going and going and going. What happened? They won 4 straight and they just knocked them out of the playoffs just like that. So, hey, let me ask you this. Do you think what do you think is next for Coach Budenholzer?
I wonder if he just takes a year off or something. It's like Vogel. They're usually so in the coaches' contracts, a lot of times they'll get paid out like their guaranteed money, right? But if they accept another deal, the money you were going to get paid out just becomes void. So sometimes when you see coaches take a year off after getting fired, it's because they're like, I can just get paid the same money I was when I was coaching and not do anything, right?
Right.
So that is one aspect. I don't know what Coach Bud's contract was, but also there's a chance that another team's willing to just cash him out, right? Like Nick Nurse, for example. Nick Nurse, I don't know if he got fired technically or not, but he'll definitely be a coach next year, I think, because he'll get cashed out. I'm not sure. I think he'll get picked up for sure. He has a 70% win percentage in the last 4 years, something ridiculous. Yeah. Like he's clearly a good coach.
Yes.
Yeah. But I wonder if he's kind of, remember we thought Tom Thibodeau like a few years ago, we thought he was really good to like build up the base of a team, but he's not a good playoff coach. I wonder if maybe that's what Mike Budenholzer really is. Because he's done it over and over and over again. Like, I don't know. Like I have to give him credit there, as much as I don't think he's a tremendous coach.
I like him as a an assistant coach. I think he'd be a fantastic assistant coach on some team that needs to get over the hump and win a chip. Because for all that can be said about his like lack of flexibility and rigidity with his coaching decisions, there is something to be said for holding steadfast to a game plan and saying like, no, this is the right thing that we can do.
Absolutely.
Like that balance is very helpful. But we've seen how it hasn't worked. Maybe it would work with other teams, but this style, they got their one chip. The league moves fast, so maybe the Bucks can can create around Giannis in a different way, and in 2 years they're going to be right back on top. I could totally see that happening. I could also see it happening where they flounder a bit. So very curious to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, I think he's still a good coach, right? Like he's still a top 15 coach, but you're right. It would be interesting to, like Mike D'Antoni took like an assistant coach job for a year, even though I think he's a great coach under Steve Nash. Kenny Atkinson, who I think he literally rejected their Charlotte Hornets offer last year. Like he should be a head coach, but he'd rather be an assistant for the Warriors because they also pay him a lot. I wonder if Budenholzer goes down that route. That's a good call. I do think though he'll be a head coach in the next 3 years. Finally, sorry, I did want to make with this one last point on this. You mentioned this earlier. Since 2015, Steve Kerr is the only coach who's won a chip to still be with the same team. Ty Lue fired from the Cavs job, Nurse fired from the Raptors job, Vogel fired, and now Coach Bud fired. I don't think that's really an indictment on those coaches. All those coaches are quite good coaches. It's rather, it really shows you that teams are always going to get rid of the coach first if things are going bad. And we shouldn't always judge a coach for getting fired. Totally. Like Vogel last year is really my example, but yeah.
Yeah, the league moves quick. So I feel like there's a lot of context to all the reasons why those coaches got fired, a lot of different directions. Like Ty Lue, seemed like the franchise was just going in a different direction. And they weren't. When he got fired, 2018?
Yeah, like right after Braun left.
So exactly. Like he's there to coach a championship team. So what is he doing sticking with the Cavs? So whole different reason for him.
Exactly. And yeah, just like when a coach gets fired, when things aren't working and a coach gets fired, it's not always the coach is just where I would make the last point. Last other current event, Memphis, they get knocked out on Friday right after our podcast. Then yesterday or 2 days ago, there is the Shams Charania report that the Grizzlies informed Dillon Brooks that he'll not be returning to the team under any circumstances. You could kind of feel this coming. So Zach Kleinman, the I think it's the president of basketball ops of the Grizzlies, had a press conference where he ran through the team, etc. And someone asked him about Dillon Brooks, and he's like, "I'll get to Dillon Brooks later," and was like, kind of waved off the question. He's like, "I don't want to deal with those questions right now." So you can kind of feel something weird coming. But Shams comes out with that report. The Grizzlies, it seemed like Grizzlies media people were thrown off, which you wouldn't expect if the team leaked it. And then it seemed like the Dillon Brooks' agent himself was super mad and called Shams a weirdo on Twitter. Interesting situation. Anthony, do you have any first thoughts on the Grizzlies, their ending of their season, the Dillon Brooks thing?
That was probably my worst call for the playoff predictions. I did state that I didn't think there was any way in hell that they were going to win a chip anyways this year. But yeah, just they didn't look good. I think it's a cultural issue that they have going on right now. I think Dillon Brooks is emblematic of some sort of underlying cultural issue that they have. I think it's easy to put somebody like up as a scapegoat, but like John Morant, you are the best player on this team. You need to get it done. Like, you need to get it done. And we're sitting here talking about Dillon Brooks, who is like, bro, he's not a Shanghai Sharks level bad basketball player. Like, he's a good basketball player, and where he failed was on offense. Like, he's not a good offensive player. He can maybe figure it out. I think he's very, very helpful for a lot of different teams. If the Grizzlies don't want him back, so be it. I didn't think he was that terrible it's just the whole, I poke bears, I don't respect someone until he gives me 40. Like, that stuff is just gonna catch fire on social media. Everybody is joking about LeBron at 20 and 20. That makes 40. Okay, you wanted 40. The Lakers will blow you out by 40. I don't know. I personally, I struggle to care about this kind of stuff very much. I just, like, they clearly have some sort of cultural thing that's getting in the way. Plus, they lost Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. So I think realistically, they just need to figure it out a little bit more, and they need more licks in the playoffs. Like, they're a young team. They'll be fine. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I agree with all your points. They do need more licks in the playoffs, but I didn't think they did after last year and the year before, to be honest. They didn't look terrible either of those years and really looked like a contender for a young team. But yeah, no, you're right. Between the injuries and all the off the court distractions this year, so I think I picked in our preview the Grizzlies to beat the Lakers in like 5.
Right.
Had it been the Grizzlies of last year versus the Lakers of this year, I kind of feel like they would have won at 5, but I think I didn't really realize the extent, the cultural issues, and even the injuries as well we're having on that team. I believe Kennard also missed game 6. And Kennard the game before was like plus 30 on plus minus. So it's like that's tough. The Dillon Brooks thing, I am very shocked that report came out, because if you're the team, there's no incentive to leak that, because now other teams, if you want to sign and trade, or if you want to do anything like that, other teams are gonna be like, oh, you're gonna get rid of this guy anyways, we're not helping you out. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
so that made no sense. And then, so that's when I thought, oh, the agent must have leaked it to Shams. The agent must be pissed that the Grizzlies did this. But then the agent started calling Shams a weirdo. So it makes me feel like this conversation definitely happened and that Shams got it from a third party source, which is really
Right.
interesting. And I think we can guarantee that Dylan Brooks will not be on the team next year. It's not like the Grizzlies came out and said that's not true. So that'll be interesting. I
Right.
also I also think the fact that Dylan Brooks didn't answer for anything at the press conferences and whatnot could not have rubbed management or the rest of the locker room the right way. Because as much as we roast Ja, after they got eliminated, stood at the press conference podium. He went to exit interviews, did all that stuff, and really answered for a lot of stuff. He seemed very mature. Also, he was like, it starts with me. There's clearly cultural issues on his team, a lot of distractions, and I was a key contributor. Like he came up and said that, and I thought that was super impressive. Dylan Brooks said, "I'm outie." Uh, I
It's not a good look.
and that's one of the things is like people like to compare Dylan Brooks to other instigators like Draymond and whatnot. All those other instigators, Pat Bev, they will no matter what do the interview after, win, lose, whether they got killed, whether they had an amazing game. That's a part of being the instigator. You always need to speak. Your credibility goes away if you're only speaking when you're winning, right? And we'll see. Dylan Brooks will be good on a team next year, though. I would
Remember Jimmy Butler talking shit to Drew Holiday down
down
6
six.
with 2 minutes
Yes.
left to go, saying, "I own you." And then he completed the job. Like that's what we like to see. We don't like to see I poke bears after you win one game and then you're quiet for the next 2 games and then you win another game. I guarantee this is going 7 and then you get blown off the court and then you don't want to talk. Like that is a weak move, but like there's so many different layers to this and like the fact that we're even talking about Dylan Brooks right now is just like it's I think it's a weird place for like where the media is kind of getting all mixed up in this too and like let the team do what the team's going to do for the like purposes of the team. Like let them try to figure this out on their own way. How does Dylan Brooks fit in with them culturally? How does he fit in with them as a player that they can use going forward or not? But we don't need to blow it up and make it this whole thing. And obviously he shouldn't be talking about some things when he's feeling good and then quiet when he's not feeling good. I think the character of a man is best shown when you're down bad and how you're going to handle adversity. How are you going to look at that camera and respond to it? And he didn't do that, I guess. And so, but I'm not here to judge him on that. Like he went around the way he wanted to go around. I thought it was kind of a crafty idea to try to goad LeBron into like forcing more shots when clearly they should have been going through AD that series. And we'll start talking about AD a little bit in a few minutes going forward. But whatever. It's another guy that kind of was chatty. We've had those kind of guys throughout the league forever. So they've been around forever and they're not going away.
I agree. I think he's different than other guys who chat. I think he's a little worse and also doesn't stand on his word.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect my opinion of him as a basketball player. He's a
Right.
tremendous defender. Two
Right.
years ago, he averaged 18 a game on like plus 40% shooting
Yeah.
from the field, not from three. So he's still not great offensively. He's never
Yeah.
been that good offensively.
No.
But if he was on the Warriors next year on a minimum contract, I'd be pretty hyped.
I don't want him in the Celtics, but I respect the place where you're coming
That's
from.
I just think that if he could ever shoot 37% from three, and he wasn't
Oh,
that far off 2 years ago, he would be a very, very good player. To be fair, also though, when you watch him play basketball, it doesn't seem like he'll ever be a plus offensive player.
yeah,
And I think another thing that pissed off the management was he was complaining about his role in the offense, and it's like, dude, you're shooting 27%, like
yeah.
it's like stuff like that. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I think it's fun. I do think Dylan Brooks kind of invites the media discussion by going to the media when he wins and not going to the media when he loses, but it is what it is. With that, enough drama. We like the NBA drama, but enough drama. We need to get into some important playoff series. So, Anthony, we can just jump in. So originally we had Steph. We want to start with the Steph game 7. Do you want to just get to that when we do Warriors and all that?
Sure.
Okay, so let's start with Nuggets Suns. I kind of just want to knock this one
Love
out.
it. Sure.
Okay.
Like the
Nuggets.
Nuggets are doing to the Suns right now.
Yes. Yeah. Nuggets Suns. The Nuggets are up 2-0. it's, in my opinion, been pretty big gaps between both teams. Jamal Murray looks fantastic and looks like he's about as good as like KD, which is like ridiculous. Obviously, that's an overreaction. But like Jokic looks great. Aaron Gordon and KCP are both shooting like 60% from three. To me, the most interesting stat I have from this is that Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and KD are basically averaging the same amount of points as Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Jokic. And if that's going to happen, the Suns are just probably going to lose. Like,
Totally.
yeah, Book and KD need to be outscoring not even a little bit the teams, but by a lot. And if them two and Ayton are combining for the same as the other team's three best players, it's just not going to happen. Chris Paul kind of got hurt. Shocker. I don't know. Anthony, you got any comments?
So yeah, my main storylines, my main like takeaways when I was like thinking about what to say about this series was point one, no bench, nothing easy.
Yep.
That's the Suns. Point two, Jokic elite, and point three, CP3 out. That's point three because that wasn't really going to change my prediction. I have updated my prediction from Nuggets in 7 to Nuggets in 6. Just because I'll give the Suns respect that they can win 2 more games in the series. Like I wouldn't be that surprised. I'm giving them the respect. Maybe they could win in 5. Maybe they could. But like that's what I'm updating my prediction to. Real quick, like you were saying, especially in that game 2 when it was close, like it was a nip and tuck game. It was 97-87, right? And Jamal Murray had a bad game. He shot 3 of 15 from the field, but you could tell by his body language that he was poised the entire time and hit a couple of he made a couple of great passes and hit like a very clutch shot towards the end of the game. And you could just tell that, sometimes when guys are off, they get a little bit nervous and they get hesitant. He didn't get that. This was his worst offensive game. And I still thought he had a good game, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
And so that was my first point on that one. Jokic has been this is what we've been waiting for with Jokic in the playoffs. The last 2 seasons, we did not get a chance to see Jokic with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. full strength, healthy. We never got to see that. And so now that we're seeing that with the guy Jamal Murray that we know elevates his game every single year consistently in the playoffs, this has been a pleasure and a treat to see. Yeah.
Can I hop in on that Jokic point? I think what's also interesting is like statistically, he's not like much better than he was either of the last 2 years, but it kind of just shows you like he was playing with no one for like the last 2 years. Just visually, it looks so much better. Even Jokic himself looks like a better player, even though the stats are the same. It's very nice. It's very nice to see.
It is. And I do want to hear, like, I think where I'm talking about Nuggets first, and I want to hear your take on all the Nuggets stuff, and then I'm down to move to the Suns. My last point is like what you had said. Like they just have more depth. You have KCP, you have Bruce Brown, you have Aaron Gordon, you have Jeff Green as a vet coming off the bench, still dunking on people at the age of 74. So they like the depth, like that was the big question here. And so we'll talk about the reasons why the Suns aren't getting it done. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on the Nuggets so far.
I think they've been great. Jamal Murray, people say he's not Bubble Murray, like he's good, but he's not Bubble Murray. I think this kind of is Bubble Murray. It's the poise, the composure, the confidence. He's running the pick and rolls. I still, I think this series says a little bit more about the Suns than it does the Nuggets, to be quite honest. I'm also a Suns skeptic, so that is the one thing there. But I think Aaron Gordon and KCP have been amazing, but I still am pretty hesitant on Aaron Gordon against a better team. KCP though has been tremendous for this whole playoffs. I raised this question to you like previously. I think KCP would be the 3rd best player on the Suns. I give me the guy who has a defensive rating of 100, shooting 45, or actually not even, he's shooting like 60% from 3 in like this playoff series. Give me the guy shooting 50% from 3 and has 100 defensive rating over DeAndre Ayton, especially a wing defender. I think it's really impressive. Again, still skeptical on Aaron Gordon. He's averaging like 20 a game in this series. He's shooting the lights out. I think that says a little bit more about the Suns. That's kind of what I had on the Nuggets. If you want me, I can start on the Suns.
Yeah, hop into the Suns.
Yeah, so the Suns, I think it's really weird. They don't have a bench, but it's causing issues elsewhere because since their bench isn't confident shooters, the defense can really key on KD, CP3, etc. No one on the Suns who's played more than 15 minutes in this series is shooting above 20% from three outside of Devin Booker. Like KD is shooting 20% from three. CP3 is shooting 20%. Torrey Craig is shooting 20% from three. You just can't win. If that's going to happen, you can't win. And I think that's not an indictment on those guys as a player. Like KD is not a 20% three-point shooter, but when you don't have to guard anyone else, that's what's going to happen. Cameron Payne, Torrey Craig, Josh Okogie, and Damian Lee are basically getting run off the court. If either four of those guys play, the Nuggets basically outscore the Suns by 3 points every 5 minutes, basically. It's a little bit ridiculous. Those four guys, again, Cameron Payne, Torrey Craig, Josh Okogie, and Damian Lee have an offensive rating of basically 80 each, which is per 100 possessions, they score 80 points. That is like insanely bad. Like I have no way to describe how bad that is, to be quite honest. DeAndre Ayton is scoring because he has to, and it's not amounting to much. Not really a believer in what he's got going on. It's unfortunate because this team they got put together at the deadline. They don't have depth, and I've thought this for a while, but I just don't think they can win. I think if anything, I'm actually the reverse as you. I'm kind of really ringing the alarm bells. I think this could be a sweep.
Whoa, sweep alert.
It could be. I wouldn't bet, or I wouldn't even predict it to happen, but
you wouldn't be surprised.
The Suns could easily, like, D-Book and KD have been about as good as Jokic and Jamal, and they're getting run. And even if D-Book and KD scored 60 combined next game, I kind of would probably still pick the Nuggets to win.
Bro, and this is what we were talking about in the first round against the Clippers, bro. Like the Clippers they lost their best two players and they took them to a tough 5-game series. Like, what are you supposed to do? What I had here. Oh, the other thing I was thinking of based on what you were saying is, I mean, 2 is not as much as 3. And KD, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, to his credit, to a certain extent, they're masters of the mid-range. And they're fucking great at shooting mid-range jump shots. That's fine. But if you can shoot, even if you shoot 55% from mid-range, which is god tier,
it's not 3 points.
If the opposing team is shooting 40%, right? Like, that's going to clear them every single time. Like the math just works out that way, where the small incremental points are going to add up in the Nuggets' favor. What I have here is KD and Booker, like they're scoring half of their points at least. That's just not going to get it done. We would need to see god tier performances. I know somebody who's a friend of a Suns fan. And this happened right after that trade happened. And we were talking about some NBA, and this was in the regular season. And she was saying how damn bad her friend was because he had told her, why do we let go of Mikal Bridges? Why do we do that? Like, that was terrible. Like, it looked like such a boomer bust kind of trade in the moment, and he hated it. So, like, from a Suns fan's perspective, it seems like they were kind of iffy on that trade. CP3 being injured doesn't change my thinking. And then finally, like you were saying, like for them to have a shot, Okogie and Craig are each going to need to average at least 17 a game. Like they need to get some bench scoring from somewhere. And Torrey Craig, I don't think he's a bad player. I think he can put up points. Like I think
he's quite good. Yeah,
he's good, but he's like he needs to be able to score like 18 to 20 a game. Like and man, like that'll happen on like November 43rd. Like that's
on February 31st. Exactly. We might get a good Torrey Craig game. No, but I totally agree. It's the bench. It's not an indictment on Booker and KD to say that them scoring each 30 points in a game probably doesn't mean they're going to win for sure. Like it's not an indictment on them. It's just the bench. And the 50 yeah, I totally agree. And the 3-point shooting, like Book is shooting 44% from 3. It's not terrible. I really think KD and CP shooting has really just been because no one else can shoot. And if you're worrying about 3 guys, and usually like Book's out when KD's in because they stagger the minutes, it's like they only have to guard 2 3-point shooters. And like no other team in the NBA do you only have to guard 2 of their shooters. Like the Warriors, you got to guard 5. Like even Like Draymond would be the second best 3-point shooter on the Suns team in this series right now. Like that is ridiculous. Percentage wise.
That's
I know it's
crazy.
like
That's
not an
crazy.
end all be all, but
Right, right,
that's
right.
what I got there. I don't really have an adjusted prediction. I think I said Nuggets in 5 or 6 last
You did too,
podcast.
yeah.
I'll probably stick to it, but I'm kind of on sweep watch. I haven't really felt like the Nuggets were at risk here.
Mhm.
And we'll get to them in the conference finals should it happen, but they look like they can beat just about anyone.
They look good.
Yeah. Moving on. So let's just knock out the other West series. Lakers Warriors. So the Lakers win Game 6 last Friday. They get an extra 2 days rest compared to the Warriors, who lose Game 6 on Friday, win Game 7 on Sunday. Really quick, we get a generational Steph game. Probably a top 5 Steph game for sure. I don't think it's like top 2 probably, but it's top 3, top 4 for me probably. 50 points, first 50-pointer in a Game 7. Steph, for all this 3-point shooting stuff and running around things that everyone like says that he does, he basically just goes James Harden for 40 minutes in a Game 7, or Kawhi Leonard even. Like if you remember Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors, like the whole pace dictating, and he's going to get to the rack whenever he wants. Generational game, in my opinion. It was beautiful. Before the game, a bunch of reports a bunch of reports came out after the game about Steph's speech before the game, basically saying that Warriors players needed to, basically get in line, shut up about your minutes, play your role, and if you follow me, I'm going to get you the win. If you're not down, don't get on the bus.
Right.
Which is amazing.
I love that.
When the Steph documentary comes out, they're gonna milk it.
Yeah.
It's be awesome. And
Yeah.
Steph actually after the game said, "Yeah, I just kind of tried to galvanize the team because, like, honestly, if we had lost, like, nobody would have even remembered that." Which
Right.
just shows you how humble he is. Amazing performance from him. Him and Kevon Looney, just spectacular, all around one.
Yeah. Amazing performance. Yeah. Quick shout out to Kevon Looney, played absolutely incredible, still grabbing all those offensive rebounds. Yum, 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 yum. Come here.
Munching.
Just munching. Shout out Ice Spice, like just going crazy. Yeah, as an NBA fan, I can only imagine as a Warriors fan, that was just so spectacular to watch your greatest franchise's player go off like that. It was so cool seeing him. He was taking some Harlem Globetrotter type of shots in the lane, these like weird floaters and finger rolls, and like just finishing in the most creative and impressive ways. Completely dictated this game. Knew that the other guys weren't having it in this game, and he said, "That's all right. We'll be good. We're chilling." And then in that third quarter, pretty quickly became a blowout. And then after once they were up by 10, it felt like they were up by 30, and
Yeah.
he was just having fun. And when Steph Curry is having fun, I truly believe that is when he is at his best, when he knows that like he's got it kind of thing. Like he's
Yeah.
one of those guys that when he's in the zone, he is just absolutely awe-inspiring to watch. And we are so fortunate as NBA fans to be able to have this man in our life playing. And like I'll be talking to some of my friends who they like the NBA, but they don't like follow it religiously. And I'll be like, dude, isn't it crazy that he's 35? And they're like, he's 35? I thought he was 32,
Bro,
31.
we have friends who avidly follow the NBA who thought he was 32. Like people who watch the NBA every night. It's like Steph is 35. Like I don't know. Don't get too spoiled because he's not going to be around too long.
35 going on 25 right now.
Dude, honestly, I also thought Steph is a sicko in the third quarter. Looney gets like 10 rebounds in the third quarter. A lot of them resulting in Steph free throws where he's smiling at the free throw line.
Yeah.
You're weird.
When he made the tech or the and one free throw, and he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, because he missed like 2 in a row, like in the first half.
Dude, it's a Game 7 and you have like 30. You're weird. You're weird for smiling. Like you're in Sacramento. They're screaming things at you. None of your other teammates are helping you out at all. Klay Thompson is playing for the Kings. And it's like Steph is just smiling at the free throw line. He's a sicko. He's a gross man. As a Warriors fan, we don't deserve him. As NBA fans, we also don't deserve him. Moving on to the series itself, Lakers Warriors. 1-1 currently. Game one, Lakers won by 7-8. Basically a 120 to 110 game. AD a 30 and 23 performance. On the other hand, middling Steph game. No one on the Warriors shot above 50% in game one, which I thought was pretty interesting. I thought it was a little bit more of a fatigue-based loss. They're coming off 2 days rest from a game seven. Lakers 4 days rest. But in game one, you saw a lot of Kevon Looney on AD. Come game two, which the Warriors ended up winning, Looney moved out of the starting lineup. He was sick. He actually said after the game he probably wouldn't have played if it wasn't a playoff game. JaMychal Green starts instead of Looney, kind of adding some floor spacing, and they fully adjust where Draymond is the primary defender at all times on AD. AD gets cooked completely, and the Warriors win by 30. Personally, I thought the Warriors win was worse than the Lakers. Like the Warriors win was a bigger deal than the Lakers win. But that's not an end all be all for the series whatsoever. The Lakers did their job and got one on the road. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. My big storylines from this are the size differential is what I'm really looking at. I'm looking at free throws versus speed and 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what this game is the Lakers far and away had the most fouls for them. The Warriors were in the bottom 5.
We were last.
Okay, so bottom one in free throws. And so like we saw in that first game, the 3-point disparity to the free throw disparity was so telling. And like that was huge. I think if the Lakers want to have a shot in this series, I think the Warriors will win. And I'll say 7, just because part of me is just hoping that it goes long so we can see as many as possible, and to tire them out of it. But like, I don't know. It seemed like in a weird way, this kind of sucks, but like LeBron being offensive early and aggressive, like I wasn't the biggest fan of that because he was hitting a few threes and he was looking good, but the Warriors were still hanging around. After that first quarter, the Lakers scored 67. They were outscored 101 to 67 over the last 3 quarters.
They were outscored by 40 in the last 2 quarters also.
Like insane scoring differential. They were hot early from 3. But the big thing for me was AD was just completely a non-factor. And that is a true shout out to Draymond Green, how he was playing him defensively and offensively. Like the way that when Draymond Green is engaged offensively and like making cuts, hitting some of those jump shots that like you're not ready to see, driving to the lane.
The mid-range? He had a mid-range going yesterday?
Midi God, shall we say? Like, maybe. Okay, no bag, and all of a sudden he pulls up with the biggest backpack you ever seen in your life, even though it looks like he's wearing a backpack. Like, what are we talking about, bro? Yeah. So I think, but if AD can be dominant, like AD has to be dominant for the Lakers to have a chance to win this series. And when he does this thing, like if the Lakers can sneak out a win where AD does not have a great game, that would be telling that the Lakers could have a shot to actually pull this thing out. But he needs, because they're riding as far as he can go, because it's just not looking like LeBron's great games. Like he didn't even have that great of a game. He started off on a great pace, but he finished with 23 10 or 23 7 and 3. So he shot like well, but he really was like crazy in the first quarter, and then he had like 9 points over the rest of the game.
Yeah, and I think on the Warriors end, that's something that's really interesting is kind of the dichotomies of their last 2 series. The Kings were the fastest team in the league. The Lakers feel like one of the slowest ones. Against the Kings, we felt slow. Against the Lakers, we look so fast, right? Mm-hmm. It's very, very different. I thought the JaMychal Green starting thing yesterday was actually a masterclass. I hate the idea that Steve Kerr is smarter than me at basketball, but he might be. I think JaMychal Green has been horrible for like 2 months. Looney is sick. I would have said just put Poole back in or just start with Kuminga. Kuminga is just must have attacked Steve Kerr in private. I don't know, but he's not getting any minutes. But JaMychal Green comes in, he scores 15, hits 2 threes, and what that does is that Looney can play on an island by himself when AD is off the court for sure. It's fine. We'll get him those minutes. But when Looney and Draymond are playing offensively, it really mucks up a lot of the stuff we do. And considering how bad we saw it last night, I thought the perimeter defense of the Lakers was horrible. And having JaMychal Green is just another perimeter threat. And you basically force the Lakers to have Jared Vanderbilt on the court if you have four perimeter scorers. And then Jared Vanderbilt being on the court clogs the lane for AD on the other side. So it's this huge chess game really happening right now. The issue is I don't know what the next adjustment is for the Lakers. I think it's more Hachimura minutes and trying to just score more.
He played really
well. I agree. And I think it'll be more Hachimura minutes and just being like, I hope Hachimura can score 25 because that's kind of what they're going to need because he also isn't a great defender, frankly. But Reeves and D'Lo, like Reeves could not run with Clay yesterday. There was like a gap. And I just thought a lot of that was interesting. I think it'll be a split in LA coming up here, and I think Warriors would probably win Game 5 and Game 6. But there's two road games coming up. The Warriors will lose by 20 in one of them.
Right. I mean, like LeBron said it. The Warriors held serve. Now the Lakers can go back. They have home court advantage or whatever you want to say. Like now it's best 3 out of 5 here. They have 3 games now in their home court, so we'll see what they can do. And but man, like at the end of the day, even though they dominated them in that game, like it's still 1-1. Still 1-1.
I agree. I do think though, if I'm the Warriors after that game, I'm feeling very good. Also, there was GP2 didn't play, Kuminga didn't play. There's still more adjustments left for the Warriors. Should the JaMychal Green thing go south, maybe you see more GP2 and stuff like that. Like there's things to be tried. I do think there's just no way, there's no way the Warriors win the next 3. That's like the other side of it. I just think there's no chance like some team wins the next 3 games in a row. Like these teams are a little bit too neck and neck, and the clash of styles is so severe.
Max, permission to put you on blast?
Yeah.
All right. This is Max the Warriors fan, by the way, folks, not Max the NBA fan.
Oh no, I know exactly what this is.
Post game 6, the Warriors have a terrible showing and they lose. Max texts me saying, "Rip Warriors dynasty 2014 to 2023." I say, Max, you will be fine. It is the Warriors and they're going to get it done. Fast forward to just after game 2. Bro, I think we have a really good chance of meeting in the finals.
I did say this. I did say both those things.
So, in the span of a week, we see the Warriors dynasty is done. The team is broken up. We're not doing anything right. To, I think we got a really good shot this year. I think we could pull it off. And I just think as a Warriors fan, man, we got to get some psychiatrists on y'all trying to figure out your emotional instability when it comes to this, because y'all lose your objective reality as a non-Warriors fan sitting there and watching these games, just being like, no, y'all good. You guys are good. Like you're chilling. So I just think that thought process is hilarious. I'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts on where those swings come from.
So to be honest, the swings come from like being bad and never winning. And then once you find, like, we started winning and we kind of never stopped winning. So we didn't really learn how to lose in between the times we started winning. like we were just bad and then good. So I never learned how to like win correctly. So that's one thing. That's just to get that out of the way.
Some childhood trauma there.
Maybe, yeah. Only immigrant fans, so that could make sense. And then I think what's another thing is like we have Steph Curry. We know Steph Curry's a god. There's like we all love him, and he I feel like if he's on our team, we should never lose. Like that's not a good way of thinking about it, but as a Steph Curry and a Warriors fan, that's how it is. And then in the middle of us, like after we won or made 5 straight finals, our owner tried to get rid of all of our old guys and cause a youth movement. And that's also trauma. Like we were the worst team in the league. And we had we had Eric Pascal playing like 30 minutes a game for us, and like they like sprinkled in the trauma there. Like it was like the owner was like, I still could fuck this up for you guys if I want to. Like it was like, oh man. So that's why every year where he shells out the luxury tax, we're like, oh bless, like we gotta win. Anyways, that's my analysis. I do have a question for you. I was thinking about this a lot during the game. I think Draymond Green is the best defender in the NBA since 2010, and I think he might be the best defender in the NBA since 2000. I know he only has one Defensive Player of the Year, but he has the most sustained success, and then he's the most switchable. He was also runner-up twice, one of the years where he had more first-place votes than Kawhi. It's also basically anchored a team that has had no plus defenders outside of him. Except for, you had the Clay stretch before he got hurt, and then you had a KD stretch. Those were probably the only two plus defenders that played next to Draymond as like stars. I know Iguodala was there, so my bad there. But basically Draymond's anchored we've on average been a top 5 defense for 10 years. So and when I think of other names, I don't like Ben Wallace. Maybe it's like he's a big too though. So
Yeah, I'm thinking of. I mean, off the top of my head, I think that's definitely a great thing we can dive into over the summer. Like best, thinking of like Ron Artest. I'm thinking of Bruce Bowen. I'm thinking of Kobe Bryant. I'm thinking of Tim Duncan as a great defensive anchor. But I think that's a good take. Like
yeah.
at the moment, I have nothing to really go against it.
That was just me.
I
That was just an idea. Like I don't, I think there's been better on-ball defenders, very few, because his on-ball defense gets slept on. Last year he strapped Jokic. Last night he strapped AD. Like his on-ball defense is amazing, but he's best used as like a free safety in a defense, which almost I think hurts him visually. You don't see him strapping up everyone, but it's
right.
because like we
Yeah,
have
He's not Tony Allen.
exactly. He can turn it on like that though. Like he is able, but that's not his best usage.
He's
That's
really
not.
smart. He's really smart. He can read all the lanes. He's looking at it like a math problem at this point because he's getting older. So he can't really like he needs to pick his spots, just like how LeBron needs to pick his spots when it comes to offense. Like Draymond's going to pick his spots when he's doing all the on ball defense. But like you're saying, the way he's able to communicate with every single person on the court, it's a masterclass to watch him kind of run the show on defense. It's very impressive.
And when he plays on-ball defense, like last year in the series against Jokic, he had a steal and a half and a block and a half a game. Like he still has it. I think yeah, stocks. Yeah. So I don't know. I still have the Warriors in 6. You said the Warriors in 7. I'm feeling better about it, but I don't feel good enough to change my prediction. So that's the discussion. Sorry. If the Lakers want to win this series, that is one thing I want to cover. They need to score a lot more, and I think they should run a bit more. I know you have LeBron, but just try to have more possessions. I don't think they can keep up with the Warriors on the perimeter defensively, but I also kind of don't think the Warriors can keep up with them during stretches when the Lakers are on offense. So I think the rest thing is also big. AD and LeBron basically have to play 40 minutes each for them to win games, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think like if the Lakers want a chance to win, it's got to be through AD. Like AD played terribly and they got blown out. AD played amazing and they eked out a win by 5. So that's the way it's going to have to go. I think if AD's not showing up, maybe they get like one game where like Rui has like 20 and D'Lo has 20 and Reeves has 18 or something like that. Like I could see that. I also liked LeBron off ball a lot more in game 1. I thought that was pretty interesting, and he was able to cut a lot more. I love seeing when stars are cutting like Steph does, and it's just so effective. So, but I'm not going to say I don't know where the Lakers go from here because I don't want to be like a Paul Pierce post game 1 of the Celtics beating the Bucks in the 2019 second round of the playoffs, and then they lose 5 straight.
Yeah.
But it's they're going to have to really push hard to like I don't know to figure this one out. So right now, I'm also with you. I think the Warriors will win this series. I think it'll be a bit longer than you think, but I think we're on the same page.
I do think if Vanderbilt starts shooting a little bit better from the corner, you can play him a little bit more. Yeah, he probably won't, but just like Malik Beasley also, if he figures out his shot. I think Schroeder, though, I think you might see a little bit more Schroeder, Reeves, LeBron, AD plus Vanderbilt lineups where they're just like Schroeder. We just need another scorer because D'Lo, as much as D'Lo is a good scorer, he's not always playing with a huge pace about him. So we'll see. I do think the Lakers still can win this series, though. Very much. Moving on, Celtics Sixers. We covered my favorite team. We got to cover your favorite team. 1-1. Game one, we get a generational James Harden game out of nowhere for no reason. And then game two, we get a generational James Harden failure. And the Celtics win by 30. Anthony, you were at game one, so I'm actually just going to throw this to you.
The Celtics played like they weren't worried about the Sixers, like they weren't taking them seriously. I can't stand that. These are NBA players with an unbelievable depth of talent. I don't care who you think you are. Go out and play some friggin' defense. We shot 85% in the first quarter. We shot 74% in the first half. And we were up by like 6 at the half. It was ridiculous. My takes on this are Celtics played down to their competition a lot. Once Embiid was back and he was like, I'm back. The MVP's returned. Celtics were friggin' pissed. I think Joe Mazzulla's post-game interview, post-game 2, was absolutely hilarious, where he was just like staring at the camera. He's like, we needed more three-pointers. We need more quality three-pointers.
Okay, wait. Bro, low-key, Anthony?
Yeah.
Mazzulla looks like he's like on some shit sometimes, but he's locked in. Like, he's the guy at the party who drinks too much and gets super physical with you, and he's like, yo. Like, he's like grabbing you, telling you serious things in the corner. Like, you know.
Yeah. He's so intense. I love it. I love it. So my thoughts on that were the offense flowed really, really well in game one for the Sixers. Like everybody felt comfortable. D'Anthony Melton went off. He had 17 points in the first half. Tobias Harris felt like very free and comfortable. Maxey got into it. It felt like the ball was really like moving and flowing and just popping. And the Celtics just didn't, I don't think they just took them seriously enough to kind of push away, because it felt like the Celtics were always like, okay, we got this, we're good. But even when we were up by like 6 with like 3 minutes to go, I did not feel comfortable sitting in that arena. Just watching them kind of dribble the clock out, like waiting until like 5-6 seconds left in the shot clock to begin their offense. Like, bro, do not dribble out the clock with 3 minutes to go when you're up by 6. It's a 2-possession game. That's not how you're going to win games. When James Harden took that step back over Al Horford, I knew it was going in. I think everybody in the crowd knew it was going in. It was the first time, and I think the last time. We will see. This is one of my hot takes. Spicy take coming up. Alert. That was the last great James Harden postseason game I believe that we will ever see.
Oh my God. Okay.
That was and when I say great, I think he could score 30. Right. I think he'll get us one more 25-point game or more this rest of the series. And then I think he's done. I don't see him scoring more than 25 again. Classic game one, James one. We know James Harden's history as a game one player. You as a Warriors fan have seen how good James Harden is in game ones, and then how he goes throughout the rest of the series. I just don't see it. I mean, I still think the Celtics will win in 6. I think I said the Celtics will win in 6 beforehand. I was very disappointed. I did not want to go on to StatMuse the next day on Twitter. I did not want to go onto Twitter at all because I didn't want to see all this bashing going on. But he had 12 points in game 2, and I thought he got nervous. I thought he got nervous when Embiid came back and wanted to defer. It's not to say that I don't think Harden can put up some great games, but I think he's more of a 20 and 11 kind of guy. But I think that's my hot take. I think I had the pleasure of witnessing James Harden's final like virtuoso over 40-point game in the playoffs. I don't think we're ever going to see it again. And that's my take on that.
That's spicy. I wish I'd come up with that. I love it. I love the take. I'm not ready to go that far yet. It was the first game back with Embiid. There were some adjustments being made on the Celtics side. In a different world where Doc Rivers knew how to make adjustments, maybe we'll see some coming up, but probably not. If we're being real, I don't know. I thought what was really interesting is I feel like the Celtics are going super small. I believe Horford and Rob Will are averaging the 6th and 7th most minutes on the Celtics this series, with Grant Williams, Brogdon, Smart, and then the 2 J's above them. So it's really been a small ball lineup coming out of the Celtics, which I think is how you beat the Sixers. It's like, okay, Embiid, you're going to have to go score 50 because we're going to guard everyone else. And I think that's usually how you should play against scoring bigs who aren't shooting threes. And who aren't facilitators. So I thought that was really smart. Overall, though, I don't think the Sixers are playing like poorly. Like even last game, like I just think there's a little bit of a gap in depth and talent. And then Embiid was coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
I definitely don't feel like the Sixers have a great shot at winning this series. But there'll be adjustments. There'll have to be. And then the Sixers are going to be at home. We'll see how momentum goes. But I kind of feel like the Sixers wasted a Tatum stinker game. Tatum had what, like 7 points? Like something ridiculous? Like,
And he had 39 in game one.
yeah, but it's like you took advantage of, you still beat him during the good Tatum game, and then you didn't take advantage of the bad Tatum game. And it's like you really had a chance, like just on paper. And I know the game didn't roll out that way. Like the Celtics were in control, but on paper, it kind of feels like you had a chance to be up 2-0. But that's also what the Celtics do. They cover for Jason Tatum's bad games a lot of times.
Yeah.
So,
because Jaylen Brown is an absolute dog.
Oh, and he's playing so well. He's spectacular.
Playing so well. All NBA, come on. Give it to us.
Or he deserves it. Last thing, just want to show B-Ball Paul some Paul Reed on the 76ers some love. I thought last series he was good. This series he's good. He is a true fun NBA player. Another guy who in the playoffs, if he can rebound, but then he also is able to facilitate on offense. So you don't really care that he can't score. I think he's great. I would love him on the Warriors. Like,
let me ask you, wait, have you been to a TD game before?
No, I've never been.
Okay, well, when you come visit, maybe when the tickets are lower in the regular season, we'll go to a game because it's super fun. And man, the Garden gets electric. Like being in that atmosphere, game one, Paul Reed has the ball. He's at the free throw line. They're up 2.
Oh, it must have been jumping.
We need him to miss 1. And I remember LeBron talking about why he hates Boston because we're racist as fuck. And I'm not even going to get into that. I fully agree that Boston has a terrible history with all that stuff. But we were just booing the shit out of this guy. We were like, Paul Reed, you can't make anything. It was a toxic crowd when he was at that free throw line. This man walks up and just doesn't hit the rim.
Yeah.
It was 2 calm free throws and it shut all of us up. And I was like, damn, I respect the hell of it. I think he had like 13 and 14 in that game one. Like he played really well.
He's averaging like 10 rebounds a game on this series. Like obviously just 2 games in, but he was also good round 1. It's funny that like they signed Montrezl Harrell to be like the Joel Embiid backup, and it's like you had B-Ball Paul for the last like 2 years. And they also had Isaiah Joe, who went to the Thunder and ended up being good, but that's another discussion. Overall, I don't really. Again, my prediction doesn't really change here. I got Celtics in 5 or 6.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think the unfortunate Philadelphia 76ers fan base woes will continue
yes, the impoverished Philadelphia 76ers fan base.
One chip. It sucks. One chip. One finals appearance in 1983.
83. If we didn't have Stephen Curry, they'd have a chip more recently than we did. Just putting that out there. All right, that's actually just major salt. That's like that's just like crazy.
Hey, the Philadelphia and the Warriors, it has a long history. You know what I mean? Like they used to be the same franchise. If nothing else, you guys can. But
we're gonna count the Warriors. We're gonna count the Warriors' history in Philadelphia, but we're not gonna count the Philadelphia team history and whatever. I'm not even gonna get into that. All I'm saying is Wilt played like 2 seasons in California. Like I didn't root for the Warriors. Like
as a Warrior saying.
Yeah, as a Warrior. Or not as a Laker. Yes. My bad.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
But that's a whole different irrelevant discussion. Yeah.
Off-season talk.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on. Knicks Heat. This is a 1-1 series.
Love this series.
I'm loving this series. I love this.
Absolutely all about the series. Yeah.
Amazing. Overall, just quick run through. Julius Randle misses game 1. Heat win the game there. But then he plays game 2 and the Knicks win. Pretty good series from Julius and RJ and Jalen Brunson. Julius, I thought he was good last game. I didn't think he was like amazing. He shot like from the floor. But he started posting Instagram montages of himself, so that'll be fun when they get eliminated and he gets clowned. But yeah, overall, I mean, I have the Knicks in 6. I don't feel too inclined to change my pick.
Yeah, I think that's fair. My prediction is still Heat in 7. But again, like this series go either way. I think this is the series that, well, now that I say this is going to change everything. But I think this is the series that is like the least likely to have either of these two teams like go on to likely win a championship kind of thing.
I
Like I
think that's
think
fair.
Lakers, I think the Warriors like have a good chance to win the chip. Celtics, even the Sixers, I think have better chances to win the chip. And Denver, I think has like better than the Knicks or the Heat. That being said, like they're gonna give whichever team advances in Philly and Boston a run for their money. Either team, I could totally see the Knicks winning this. I'm just gonna say Heat in 7 due to Jimmy Butler. And the fact that they were able to hang so well with the Knicks without Jimmy Butler was so impressive to me. Like Gabe Vincent putting up 20 plus points in both games, Caleb Martin going crazy, just a really well balanced game. I think Bam Adebayo really needs to step it up, and I think that's one of the reasons why. Yeah.
On the Bam, I mean, finish your Bam point. I might have a differing take on this.
Well, I just thought he should have been more aggressive in this game, and
Well,
I think yeah.
I think he does need to be more aggressive offensively, but I really feel like considering it's the Mitchell Robinson matchup who just strapped Jared Allen and Evan Mobley last series. Bam, if anything, has totally won that matchup against Mitchell Robinson. But now that you throw in Julius too,
Right,
that's kind
right.
of now I'm curious to see how he responds. Obviously, last game, Knicks won,
Yeah.
but going back home, I'm not totally out on the Bam thing. I actually feel like he's not been horrible. I've been seeing this, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff on social media about it. That's why I wanted to hop in. But yeah.
Well, that's fair enough. And actually, one of my biggest takeaways from this is in this series, the Knicks have out rebounded the Heat 98-73.
Yeah.
And that's a huge I think that is the difference in the series so far, because the Knicks are getting all these second chance points and all these second chance shots. Still love Josh Hart. I said it when the Knicks traded for Josh Hart way back when. We can go back in the Twitter DMs and find it. But
Yeah, you did.
once they made that trade, I said, now I see where the Knicks are going. I like what the Knicks are doing. I'm really excited that this series is going, and I hope it goes 7 in either direction, just because it's been so much fun and these teams just like it's going to be electric. We need Jimmy Butler back, and that's why I have the Heat in 7, because I think if the Heat have home court advantage now, so if they can have Jimmy Butler healthy, he's the best player in this series by far in my mind. So that's why I'm slightly leaning Heat 7, but just like you're saying, like I think the Knicks poise that they have compared to the Bucks, I think Tom Thibodeau, even though he loves to run his starters into the ground, I feel like he's been able to make some adjustments to the Heat.
Absolutely.
They're just way more flexible in how they're able to play.
Definitely.
So that's what makes it easier. It's that classic. I think you made this point about how just because one team beats a better team in one round, it does not mean that they're going to continue to beat a team that is not as good as the team they beat in that first round. Again,
NBA maths. That's what I call it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The
It
NBA
doesn't
math
work.
ain't always mathing.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And I totally agree. Like, overall, I do think the Heat, like coming back, are gonna have momentum and whatnot. But what's really, to me, the reason I'm gonna stick with the Knicks strongly is just I think Brunson and RJ have been really good. And Brunson's kind of the key to winning on the road. If he's been good and he continues to being good and is just orchestrating and whatnot, I think like I could see them pretty easily taking one of the next two. And then you have a 2-2 series going into game 5. You go from there, right? I do want to shout out Max Strus and Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
Is it Cody? Is it Caleb? Cody?
Caleb.
Caleb. Okay.
Cody's on the Hornets.
Okay, there's too many of them. Yeah, but the Martin and Strus have been really good this series, and they kind of perimeter wise, you need them to be good because the Knicks have so much perimeter scoring, right? So like that's like a thing. Quickly's been really bad. If Quickly warms up at any point in this series, I think it's kind of over for the Heat because it's not really like the Heat have like perimeter defensive monsters, right? So we'll see there. It's not a Mitchell Robinson series, like I said earlier. Bam Adebayo is just a better matchup, but I just think that there's a little bit of a talent disparity. And I think RJ and Brunson have been really good, and I don't really see them slowing down given the matchups.
I got a quick funny story. So for our listeners, I work at a psychiatric hospital, right? And at our psych hospital, I was working on Tuesday night when there was that game two, and it was a great Knicks Heat game going down to the wire. We have a big TV in the kitchen, so some of like fans of NBA guys and myself, we were just watching it because it was late. You know, most people had kind of gone to bed, and so I'm sitting with one of the patients that's in there, and he's talking about and he's watching. He goes, "Man, they need Mitchell Robinson back out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can totally see that. He's like getting all their rebounds for them, and like they could really use him." And it's like, when are they going to bring him back out? Like, why are they just? I mean, and Hartenstein was playing very, very well. Like he was
Yeah.
getting a lot of offensive boards, and he's been an unsung hero for them in the series. And so I was like kind of floating, like, yeah, maybe they're just going to kind of keep him on the bench while Hartenstein's doing his thing and let him keep running. And eventually Mitchell Robinson comes back in, and the guy that the patient sitting next to me goes, "Oh, thank God he's back in." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like thinking, I'm like, are you a Knicks fan?" He goes, "No, I just want the series to go longer." I'm like, "Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, like he's a Celtics fan, you know, from Boston, but he just wants the series to extend. Cool, I'm with that." Then Jalen Brunson hits a shot, and he goes, "Okay, phew, Jalen Brunson hit the shot. Now I just need 3 more points from Mitchell Robinson and 2 more boards." And I go,
Ah,
"Oh, that's why you wanted him back on
that's
the court."
hilarious.
And so we won't get into the subtext. If you know what we're talking about, then you know what we're talking about. But it was just hilarious talking shop with this patient at the hospital that I work at, talking about the reasons why he wanted Mitchell Robinson back in that game versus
No
what I thought.
ulterior motives at all.
Yeah, exactly. No financial incentive there. So
Yeah, that's hilarious. I'm so dead.
yeah.
Prize Picks, if you want to sponsor us, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm playing. You just get like Drake like sponsoring and shit. Finally, I think we covered everything. I did want to touch on one thing. I feel like we didn't cover this too much. The Sixers want to win the series against the Celtics. Moving back to that really quickly, I think the
Yeah.
Sixers need to and they won't. They should play faster. I think you're looking for high scoring games, and defensively the Celtics definitely have an edge in my opinion. So why not run a little bit more? They won't. They have Embiid and they have Harden and they have Maxey. But that's what I would like to see. Especially considering Melton played on like the Grizzlies last year, and that was a team that was willing to run pretty often and things like that. So, that's what I would like
I
to see.
liked Melton on the Grizzlies, man. I liked him a lot on the Grizzlies.
He was great. It's funny how that I will say the Melton trade ended up kind of being a win over the long term in my opinion for both teams because they flipped Melton for assets plus David Roddy, which was just Danny Green honestly. But then they flipped those assets to get Luke Kennard, and kind of in a vacuum if you look at it, I get David Roddy and Luke Kennard or I get Melton. It's like pretty
Right.
equal. But it's
Sure.
worked out better for the 76ers, like in terms of
Right.
basketball fit and everything.
Right. Totally. Yeah. He
Absolutely.
was he was elite.
Moving forward, do you have any adjustments to your championship predictions, anything like that? I mean, I had the Bucks winning the chip before the playoffs against the Warriors. I just replaced that with the Celtics once they got eliminated.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Um, my prediction is still in play, man. I'm a ride with my prediction. I had
Celtics Nuggets. Okay.
Nuggets. So I'm not going to walk that back. The Nuggets haven't done anything to dissuade me from how well they can play. I think they're 6-1 in the playoffs so far. Although I think, to be fair, your point about how this series might be a little bit more about what the Suns are lacking more than what the Nuggets are not lacking. I think especially if the Lakers manage to eke out the series win, I think the Nuggets are just going to eat. I think that'll be a different story if the Warriors make it. So that'll be dicey, but I'm going to roll with my picks. So
No, and I think you're fair to roll in your pick. It's not like the Nuggets have shown you anything to make you worried. Like the only thing was at the back end of that T-Wolf series, I thought they kind of like they lost the game 4 and then they almost lost the game 5. I'm a little bit like, come on, guys, like it's the T-Wolves. But that's literally it. And Jamal Murray, if anything, looks so good where you'd probably feel even more confident had you picked the Nuggets, like to be honest. Right. We'll preview a potential Warriors Denver matchup at some point, but I think the Draymond on AD matchup is very indicative of how the Warriors would guard a Jokic matchup. But on the other hand, Denver has a lot more perimeter players, scorers, etc.
Right.
So pretty interesting. But then they can't defend as well as the Lakers. Again, the NBA maths aren't going to math in this whole thing. Yeah. We're gonna have to see. I think with that, I think we kind of covered everything that we wanted. I actually this might get cut and put into the front of the podcast, but this will be our first episode that's on Spotify. It should be an audio format, and it might also be in video format, where you'll have the video up. You can still lock it on Spotify, and it'll still keep playing on your phone. So yeah, that they added that. That's cool. So we'll see. With that though, enjoy our podcast on Spotify, YouTube. We've gotten some more subscribers and viewers over the last few weeks, so that's nice. Appreciate it, y'all.
Hit that subscribe button below, like and share.
Post us on Facebook and MySpace.
Please, in all the Facebook groups. We don't care. Put us on your local PTA board group. Put us on your local supporting the firefighters group. like put us on the Detroit Pistons wellness check watch group. Like whatever you got to do. Like put us out there. But for now, no matter what happens, we'll still be here spitting hoops every single Friday and probably a little bit more frequently, hopefully, as these playoffs roll on.
See you guys next week.
Peace. Bye.
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 Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Way off.